coming to you raw and unscripted. Beaming across Ontario and beyond to places like Yonge and Eglinton, Barry's Bay, St. Catharines, and Sudbury. This is the Real Hickson Real Estate Podcast. Whether you're listening on your commute or putting on your suit, whether it's your morning stroll or you're on patrol, you just finished prayer or dropped the kids at daycare, you're in the bar, your car, or listening with the bathroom door ajar, near or far, this is the Jess and Jarreau Show. We're grateful for flattery and prone to inaccuracies. This is your guide to Toronto culture, people, events, news, but most importantly, real estate talk. Yes, hello guys, we are back. Welcome back to the Hickson Real Estate Podcast, where we try to bring you news. We try to bring you information. What else do we bring, Jess?
Fun.
We bring fun. Yes, we do. At the end of the day, it's a serious business, but we do try and make it as fun. It should be fun, right?
Yeah.
It's stressful, but it's fun.
It's more stressful for us than
Yes, it's stressful for us as well. Okay, guys.
We feel all your emotions.
Right, we feel all the emotions. So this week, we're going to talk about the basics of real estate buying, Jess. Mm-hmm. See, what we found is the more people we talk to about buying real estate and et cetera, the more we realize that they don't really know anything.
Yeah, no one was taught in school.
And I feel like a lot of people are embarrassed. Would you agree?
Yeah, and it's not embarrassing.
So, here's the thing. You learn your mathematics in school, you learn English, you learn languages, you learn all these different kinds of things. But what don't you learn, Jess? You don't learn about real estate, do you?
No.
You don't know how to do your taxes.
No. Or save financial planning.
Financial planning. And
investing,
any of this stuff.
I think they do now.
But you know what they do teach you? Pythagoras' theorem.
Yeah.
And I've probably used that 1,000 times in my life.
Yeah, I used it this morning.
So what we're here to do is we're trying to educate. We're trying to get you guys to a point where you need to be and understand where you need to go. First off, I want to say Happy Family Day.
Yes, a different type of family day, but
different
still one.
Type of family day, definitely. But
I think people are a little too sick of their families right now.
What are you talking about? Everyone is so happy with the quality time.
It's another day full of quality time.
Oh my gosh. I feel like every day in COVID is family day. Would you agree?
Yes.
Well,
and I'm sure the ones with the little kiddos wouldn't mind throwing their kids back to school today.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a few of them out there. Okay, what's happening in the market, Jess? What's going on?
That is where the real crazies are.
That is where the real crazies are. Okay, so first off, the condo market is coming back. For all you who are wondering out there, we saw a massive decline since March last year in condos. Not only in days on market, they sat a lot longer, but price reductions. A lot of people were selling their condos. They didn't know what was happening. A lot of people were leaving, especially downtown. Mm-hmm. And this is a trickle-on effect. It starts in downtown and trickles on to the rest of the GTA.
Yeah.
A lot of people leaving their rentals. They go back home. They're not studying. International students. All those kind of different kind of reasons. Paying too much. People are allowed to work at home. So they moved out, and the investors were trying to cash out. Right?
Yeah. Yep.
But
they're coming back.
We've seen it in the first month in January. We saw actually some records broken for showings in condos, especially downtown.
Yeah.
And it's really starting to come back. Now we have offer presentations,
which explain that to those that are not.
So offer presentations is traditionally you'd put it up, maybe you'd list it of 1 to 3% higher than what you want it, and people would come in and you would kind of go back between one seller and one buyer, and you would try to come to an agreement and accepted offer. But in a buyer presentation date, they will probably give 5, 6, or 7 days on the market.
At a lower price.
At a lower price. And the lower price is to attract
more
buyers. Because if you, let's say it's listed for $599 and your budget is $610, you're thinking, oh great, $599, this is great. But in actual fact, they probably want maybe closer to $7 or over $7.
Not even want, like it is worth.
It is worth that much, right? So,
but it's to get the people in the door.
So just remember that if it's too good to be true, it generally is. And, instead of 3 people that can actually afford it, they maybe get 10, 12, 15 people that are all vying for it. And the one thing that we know as agents, when it comes to these offer presentation dates, we don't know what's in the offer. We don't know any contents, any conditions, nothing. All we know is it's an offer. So we get our emails these days. We get a lot of emails when the offer comes in, and we'll have our phone blow up, and it'll say 15 offers on a place registered. And when you think about that and you go to offer, you're not going to offer under list price. No. You're not even going to offer list price.
No. They're expecting an over asking.
They're expecting over asking. So that's how that works.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what's coming back. But to segue that, what's happening in the house market, Jess? Still.
Oh, that too, times a million.
That times a million. We have
very little inventory.
Lots
of active buyers.
And, especially townhouses, semis, houses, there's certain people that want to downsize and certain people that are living in condos that want to get a house. So it's a concentrated market.
Yeah, and the Toronto market was slow, especially this fall. Yeah. People still going out to the outer suburbs, but now they're back in the city. We've had situations this week with 25 offers on a home, 29 offers on a home. So,
but here's the crazy thing. I was out in Ajax, which is quite a hot neighborhood. And even in the fall, when it was slower, where we're still getting 3 or 4 offers.
Toronto was slow, but the outer suburbs were busy.
That's right. But now
Toronto had a moment of quiet.
Right. And it's always like, retrospectively, isn't it? It's like, oh, well, I thought I didn't want to compete then, but now you're competing a lot more. Yeah. So just remember, guys, when you're trying to predict the market, know that if you know what the market is today, just remember it could be worse in the future. Could be better as well, for sure. Yeah. But always, if you're trying to time it, just know that if you're comfortable to work in the market today, then do it today. Don't wait,
Yeah. Well, you're never going to outsave the market.
Never going to outsave the market. Okay, so let's jump into this buying process. Buying real estate for beginners.
The fun stuff.
Where do we start, Jess?
Okay, so number 1, we have to talk money. So you have to figure out what you can afford. So the best thing to do is to speak to the bank that you are comfortable with, or a mortgage broker that you are referred to by us or somebody else you know.
We have some guys. We'll always refer out 1 to 2 to 3, just depending on who we like at the time and who's buying us bottles of wine.
Yeah, of course. And once you know what money you're working with, then it's a lot easier to start the search, because maybe you can afford more than you thought you could.
Exactly. It really all comes down to the monthly carry. A $500,000 mortgage is scary as hell. But especially with the rates down right now, if you're buying a condo, for example, the taxes you've got to take them into account, and the maintenance fees, as long as they're low, you'd actually be quite surprised. I think we've always said this before, that you'd be surprised, especially with rents a couple of years ago, how high they were, and what a monthly carry for a mortgage would cost. You'd be surprised. Okay, so we've gone to our trusted bank lender or alternative lender or our mortgage broker, and the mortgage broker does shop your rate out, right? Yeah. It doesn't cost anything to open a file. The mortgage broker actually makes commission on getting you a mortgage through a lender, so you don't have to pay them anything. It's not going to cost you anything. And they will give you a really good. It's a guide, isn't it, Jess? It's not. It's not like a set in stone thing.
No, it's an idea of what you may be able to comfortably afford.
Now, the pre-approvals are valid for 90 days, generally, and and as I said, they don't guarantee you a mortgage. No. They do, especially if your job changes or if you make big purchases. That always affects the end result, but basically they give you a pretty good guide. Yeah. So then from that point, you're able to search for properties. You come to your trusted realtor either Jarreau or Jess at Hickson Real Estate. And we then kind of detail your criteria. You know, like, let's look at areas. Let's, we got a lot of fun tools that we're able to use and
What
really
are your wants? What
narrow
are your
down.
needs?
Yep. Do you need parking? Is it a deal breaker? Locker for condos and stuff. And for houses, it's a lot more finicky. There's a lot more like details that are probably required. But yeah, we get a good idea of what you're into, and we also try to keep you your expectations managed. Because maybe what you want isn't what we can get you.
But it could be in 5 years.
Could be in 5 years.
If you get into the market now.
That's right. Let's not forget, guys. You're not going to buy your dream home straight away. You're buying something small. If you listen to our last podcast, we detailed the story of Jess and I through our real estate journey. And if you haven't listened to it yet, please go and listen to it. We're starting small, baby steps.
Yeah.
Baby steps. When you buy your first car, when you're 16, 17, do you go out and buy a Porsche?
No.
Maybe if you're rich. Buy your parents buy it.
More, yeah.
But what are you going to do? You're going to go buy a Corolla or something, something you get there. A starter, exactly. So we will, show you through all the properties. And don't forget, guys, just because we don't go out and see them doesn't mean we're not going through a whole host of options. I think a lot of people want to see exactly and everything that's out there.
Yeah.
But just remember that we, in a lot of cases, we'll go through 50, 100, sometimes more properties, and we'll eliminate a lot of them for you. And so, we know also that you're going to go and search for yourself, even though we're sending you stuff. You don't want that feeling of like, oh, I'm missing out. We're really not omitting anything from you. It doesn't serve anything for us.
No, but it's fun for everyone to look at houses. Anyone's favorite pastime is going on.
Yeah, exactly.
On the website.
You want control. Everyone, in 2021 believes they can do that.
But there may be details on those listings that they don't show that maybe we
and
know.
What we just mentioned is offer presentations.
Yes, that doesn't.
And we get it
shown
all
to
the time. People are like, oh wow, this place is only $5.99. Well, actually, the offer presentations in 3 days.
Yeah.
The comparable sales are around 700 or beyond. So that's the kind of thing that we know. We can see maintenance fees. Just remember, there's a lot of things that we can see, pretty crucial stuff. We can see the history of the property. Mm-hmm. If it's been relisted, we can kind of get a grasp of what the seller maybe wants.
Yeah, but I wouldn't stop people from looking themselves because,
do not.
And then
we know you're going to.
We get an idea of what you like too by what you send us.
Exactly. So if you are going to look, guys, definitely go realtor.ca. That's a direct mirror to MLS, which is what the realtors use. Of course, you don't have all the information like sold prices, but you can. There are some websites that do have that. Yeah, but it's just not that reliable. The third-party websites are good. They have some historical data. I know like House Sigma people like. Look, they do have useful data, but just remember that those third-party websites, apart from realtor.ca, they can be outdated. It's even, when I say outdated, it could just be a couple of days. But that's all that it takes for you to go and waste your time looking into a property and all that kind of stuff. So, all right, so we go through the search process, and then we go and look at places. Mm-hmm. So even during COVID, guys, we have a lot of protocols in place. We're still able to see properties. Some tenanted places might be a little more difficult to go and see. There's a lot more restrictions, which is fair to the tenants. But in general, it's pretty easy to go and see a place. You wear gloves, you wear masks, you hand sanitize, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's pretty safe. Yeah, pretty safe and healthy process. After all, the world must go on in those kind of certain situations.
Mm-hmm. And we are essential.
We are essential. Thanks, Trudeau. Okay, so let's say we looked through 100 places and we went to visit a few properties and you found the one, Jess. You found it. It's the one. It's beautiful. You want it.
You said yes to the dress.
You said yes to the dress. That's right. Okay, so what happens?
We put in an offer.
Put in an offer. Okay, so what does that kind of just quickly look like?
we decide the purchase price that you want to start with,
Okay.
the date you'd like to take possession, some of the conditions that will be needed, financing and inspection, status certificate review by a lawyer.
That's for condos. So in condos, there's status certificate which has all of the board that actually manages the condo on behalf of all the owners. It has the reserve funds and stuff like
the
special
health
levies.
of the building.
Yeah, are they going to go replace all of the carpets? And is that going to be a special levy on top of the maintenance fees?
Yeah.
The maintenance fees will generally take care of most of the maintenance of the units, but sometimes that happens. So we would always give that to a lawyer to review all that kind of stuff. But before all of that, let's just talk about how the offer actually gets presented. So we usually email the offer to the listing agent. Now, they can do a few things. When we've emailed it to them, we give them a time frame. It's called an irrevocable time. We can give it till midnight. We can give it to the next day. If it's a high-pressure situation, you might give a few hours. But either way, we've given them an offer for the conditions, that's the price that we've come up with. Then they have a few options. They can either accept it as is, which is unlikely, but it happens. They can counter it, which means that then they give a new irrevocable. It's now irrevocable by them to us, and then we can accept it, or they can just let it die, which basically means that they don't like the offer, they don't want to work with it, and when the irrevocable time comes up, then the deal dies, and that's it. So now let's talk about conditions. And so how do the conditions work, Jess?
Well, it depends on what the condition is, but normally in standard practice, it's about 5 days to get your financing in order and to get a home inspector in to review the property, go through all the major criteria, and get an idea if it's a viable purchase.
Right. So once we get an accepted offer, that's when the whole process starts. That's when you get 5 business days to take that. Remember how we talked about the pre-approval? This is where you now take an accepted offer and give that to your mortgage guy, and he would look it over and he would actually get a commitment letter. And the commitment letter is actually the commitment from the banks or the lenders.
Yes.
And that means that on the closing day, which is, usually 60 days, but it can be 30, it can be 90. That's the day that you actually get the keys. That's when the banks will give you your money, basically, for your mortgage. So, so let's just backtrack a little bit. So when you get the accepted offer, we've basically agreed on a lot of terms, as you said. The buyer wants this, the seller wants that, blah, blah, blah.
The negotiation happens.
The negotiation happens. And we do that. This is the big stuff, guys. Like the searching properties things, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Now we get into the guts of it. There's a lot of pages. It's a lot of boring reading. And we will send you these documents and we get you to sign them. And, of course, if you have any questions, you ask us along the way. But generally, we do set you up before all of this. We give you a really good idea of how it goes down. But then we get the accepted offer. And what's the first thing that happens? First thing is deposit, right?
Well, within 24 hours, yes.
So within an accepted offer, and in COVID, it can be up to 2 business days sometimes, you will have to take generally 5%, right, Jess? Sometimes more, sometimes less.
Yeah. A good number is.
And the deposit's actually part of your down payment. And it's to tend to the deal. That's what they call it.
Yeah.
Tending to it. And when you tend to it, it means that it's kind of like secures that deal. Right? So within 24 hours, you guys, whatever the purchase price is, get about 5% of that, and or roughly. And we have to get a little bank draft or a wire transfer these days.
Yeah.
And that goes to the listing brokerage.
It gets held in trust.
And and then you sign. That's part of the offer as well, Schedule B, where you sign all about that, and they hold it for the remainder of that deal. Okay, so that then locks you in. So that's when the conditions start. The financing condition, as we said, 5 days. Sometimes it's less. And when we talk about offer presentation, guys, sometimes people go in firm. That's actually most times people go in firm, and that is an advantage to the seller.
But explain what firm means.
Firm means no conditions, so no financing conditions. So, maybe your mortgage guy is like, yeah, you can afford up to $800,000,
but not a penny more.
But not a penny more. and you're got a firm deal for like 720. That's a pretty comfortable position, right? It also means that you're waiving stuff like inspections.
Yes.
Okay. Status review certificates, as we said, in condos, and this is when it gets crazy. When you really want to edge out the competition, that's kind of what you have to do sometimes. So we've got the conditions, whether it's firm or whether you have conditions, we'll ride that out. And basically, as you get the go-ahead from your mortgage broker or your lender, and as you get the go-ahead from the lawyer after they've reviewed the status, or the inspector in this case, the inspector will come to you in the case of a house. The inspector will come to you and show you, what might need fixing, what's not really an issue, what might have to be replaced in 10 years, in 2 years, all that kind of stuff. And it's really up to you at that point how comfortable you are with it. That's all it really comes down to. Because if you are comfortable, then you'll waive the conditions or you will fulfill the conditions. Mm-hmm. So we send that. That's another little form. We send it to the listing agent, and that's it. And then you get a firm deal. So what happens, Jess, from getting the firm deal? What's that in between?
So in between the time between the sale firming up and
the time between the time.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, you want to go again for that, guys? This is raw. This is live. Like this is unedited. So continue, Jess.
Sorry. So in that time, there's a lot of behind the scenes action that you're not really a part of as the buyer. The lawyers talk to the seller's lawyer, and they understand like property taxes. If anything's been unpaid, it has to be dealt with, and just like the transfer of the title, all stuff that really you wouldn't have to worry about. They're gonna ask you who's living in the home, what's the information they need. Anyways, they go through all that stuff with you. It's very simple and it's not a big deal.
They check the title of the land.
The worst part of the whole thing is when they ask you to bring in a check.
That's right. That's what, yeah.
And the mortgage broker, same kind of story. They organize all the financing. They make sure everything's in order. They'll re-pull your credit just before. Please don't buy a car.
Don't do any big purchases, guys.
Get a brand new visa because they're giving t-shirts away when you sign up for a visa. Don't do it.
That sounds like something you may have done in the past, Jess.
You used to be able to do that at Raptor games or Blue Jay games
if
you wanted.
You get hard hits on your credit, don't you?
Yeah, if you wanted a brand new t-shirt with your favorite sports team's logo.
That's kind of sounds like me. If I was like, wrapped up in the third quarter, we're blowing out the Bucks or something like that, and which I can't afford the tickets to those games, but they come along, and I've had a couple of beers.
Yeah, no, you'd be surprised.
And they show me this shiny visa, and I just see this t-shirt.
Yeah, you would be surprised how many people get a new visa because of a t-shirt.
Right.
So just don't do that. Don't
go on a trip. Like it seems like such a small thing, but even just going on a big trip and putting that chunk on your visa.
Yeah, just save it. Save it for later. After closing, do whatever you got to do. That's fine.
Let us buy you the champagne. We buy you the champagne.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Yeah. After the fact, go away for 3 months as long as you continue to pay your mortgage. It's fine.
That's it.
Yeah. So in between that, we also will go for a couple buyers visits. You can come in and...
So just to get an idea, this, as we said before, this period's kind of like as soon as 30 days, because generally lawyers need at least like 21 days, 30 days to do what they need to do. But this was all decided in the offer anyways. It's between 30 days, as we said before, typically 60 days. Sometimes it could be 90 days or longer, kind of.
Yeah, 120.
Yeah.
It's really, in this market, it's what the seller prefers, really, to be honest.
Right.
But
yep.
That can be negotiated.
Yeah, and that's a leverage thing as well, right? Like someone has to leave something on the table. Both sides do. So
yeah, but when we organize a buyer's visit, you can go in and maybe bring your parents if they haven't seen the property yet. So you get two buyer's visits. One we like to do. You do it pretty quickly. You get very excited about the place, and you want to go and measure up and start buying some furniture.
You get your augmented apps where you start measuring in space on your phone
what works.
And you start virtually staging it as you 1 a.m. pre-game in the bed.
Also, don't buy any furniture at the Brick and then don't pay till 2024 because that also is not going to be good on your credit. So.
Just chill out, guys. Chill out.
Yeah.
If you're going to buy a car, buy it in cash. Cash that maybe the government doesn't know about. I don't know.
Don't say that.
I mean, no, we don't endorse those things, but I'm just saying, like...
Okay. Moving on. And then the final buyer's visit, we usually like to have 2 or 3 days before closing. We check the water pressure.
Yeah.
We check there's no leaks, there's no damage, there's no problems that we didn't see.
Okay,
on the
let's
first
say
round.
that we agreed in the offer to include the fridge, the stove, the microwave, and this and that, and you get there a few days before closing and the microwave's not there. So what happens?
Yeah, that's when we would let the lawyers know that something is amiss, and then they would handle it for you.
That's why it's important. Like, we really are very diligent going through the offers and really setting out and agreeing on all of these really specific terms. It's not just price. It's not just closing date.
Yeah.
There's a lot of specifics in this offer.
But it's just one last final time before the property is officially in your hands. So you want to make sure everything is working.
Yeah, and if it's not like they have the option, the lawyer speaks to the seller's lawyer, and it's like, okay, they either bring it back, maybe the sellers didn't know that it was included in the offer, or they can offer like a monetary value sometimes as well, right?
Yeah. So it's really important to just do that one final walkthrough.
Yeah, and make sure it's all kosher, as they say.
Yeah. And then the day of closing comes. Normally a couple days before closing, you'll sign your paperwork and bring in the...
Right. So you don't even have to go to a lawyer's office these days. I mean, at least the lawyers that we use.
Yeah, it's normally
They'll do like the Zoom. They'll get you to print out some stuff and sign it in front of the camera, showing your ID and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and they'll organize the wire transfers for the deposit and all that. And then on the day of closing, you get your keys. And
you get your really scary statement of adjustments, which includes like the deposit, the mortgage that came from the lender, and minus the cost of the lawyer and land transfer tax. So talk about the closing costs, Jess.
Yes.
This is the scary bit.
Not scary.
It's essential. It's unavoidable.
Part of it, yeah.
Okay, so the first thing worth mentioning is us as realtors, buyer realtors, we don't actually cost you anything. Believe it or not, we don't cost you a penny. The seller actually pays both sides, the listing agent and the buying agent, from the profits that they make on the sale. Okay, so how much is a lawyer going to cost us?
Between $1,500 and $2,000.
Okay.
Average.
And that covers all the disbursements and all that kind of stuff. And then the slightly more scary one, the land transfer tax.
Well, that's a percentage based on the purchase price and the location of where the property is.
Right, so it's a scalable number.
So there are there's land transfer calculators available online.
Yep.
Or you just ask us and we can do it for you.
Okay, and it means different in Toronto and to everywhere else, doesn't it?
Yes. There's a municipal and a provincial. So if you're in the city of Toronto, then there's two.
Yep, Toronto is that cool, apparently, guys. It is so cool, you got to pay for it twice.
Yeah. Well, that's just one of the factors of living in the city, but it's fine. That can be calculated easily, and you definitely have to know because you have to pay that up front. That's not mortgaged money.
And you only have to pay it on the buying side.
Yes.
Yeah, so you do that. You don't have to pay anything like HST or anything, unless of course it's a brand new build. But in all the resale, that kind of stuff's covered. So there's not too many scary fees. Some scary fees.
The biggest one is your deposit, which may be 10%, it may be 20%, depending on...
Okay, so the down payment and the deposit, like, usually 20%, okay? If it's anything less than 20%, it becomes...
an insured mortgage.
Okay. So that means that it's insured, like a subsidy from the government? Is that a good way of putting it?
It's just a protection.
An
additional...
And actually, in some cases, I think a lot of cases, you get a better rate because it is secured.
Yes, but there is an additional fee on top.
Right, so you do pay a premium.
Fees, yeah.
There is calculators online. You can ask us. We can calculate it for you as well. Okay, so you can put anywhere between 10 and 20%. I don't think you can put any less than 10.
5% if it's less than 500,000.
Right. Okay. So there you go. And if it is in an investment property, which it's not going to be if it's your first home, then it has to be 20%, right? Minimum 20%. But the fun news is that first home buyers do get a bit of a break, don't they?
Yeah.
So first off, as you're probably all aware, if you're not aware, then that's why we're here for you. You can withdraw RSPs for your down payment.
Up to $35,000 per person.
Right, up to $35,000 per person, which is actually quite good. If you're in a couple and you got a bunch of RSPs, you could pull it out tax-free, is it? Mm-hmm. Penalty-free. That's the incentive.
It does have to be paid back, I think, on the sale on the home.
On the resale of the home, you do have to pay it back, or after 20 years or something like that. You know, you can look into it online, but basically that's what happens. They give you a break on your down payment, and also they give you a break on land transfer tax, don't they?
Yeah, $4,000 per person.
Yep. So it's not that scary, guys. It's not crazy.
It's better when you know the situation.
Yeah, it really just comes down to, do I have enough money? Okay. Can I save enough money? Can I beg, borrow, and steal? Okay.
Yep.
Ask your parents. Make some sacrifices. We always talk about this stuff. If you were to say to someone, okay, you have to live a pretty crappy existence for the next 5 to 10 years just so that you can live comfortably for the rest of your life, you know, however long that is, I think it's worth it. I think we all have to realize that everyone deserves to buy their own real estate.
For sure.
And, you know, unfortunately,
it's a future
it's
game.
not 20 years ago where it was a lot easier.
Yeah.
You know, and in some cases, maybe where you start is buying a small condo out in an outer suburb somewhere, like a growing area like Kitchen Waterloo. I always go on about that. For example, you can buy a 2-bedroom. Last I looked, 2-bedroom for around $350,000. Okay, and you do the math on the rest of that. Mortgage rates are 1.7, depending on what you get, but that's around the average right now. And the down payment, $35,000. Right, if you're doing 10%.
If it's an investment property.
If it's an investment property, it has to be 20%. But you know, you could live there and you just say, "This is the sacrifice. We'll have to make the sacrifices to get there," and eventually. You sell that, you make some money on it, you've also put equity into it. And you move on to the next stop, the next. And 10-15 years time, depending on how well you do, you could be in a nice, 3-bedroom townhouse or get a semi somewhere. And, you get exactly what you want.
For sure.
So we're here to just inspire. We're here to get you there.
Yeah.
Right?
It's not impossible.
It's not impossible. So this is what we're preaching here, guys. And just remember, when you look on Blog.to and something's sold for $1 million and it's a shed in the beaches somewhere or something like that, just remember, don't get angry. Don't say, how am I ever going to buy? Just be smart about it. Come to us. You need a plan. As I said, there's tiny, tiny little steps. Again, go back and listen to episode 7. Jess detailed exactly what she did. She really didn't start with a lot. And I know that it was cheaper back then, but it's all relative, right?
It was scary for me.
Scary for you?
It wasn't
still scary. It wasn't like it wasn't scary.
It was still a big
And make little steps. I guess the biggest question, I'm always preaching this, is ask yourself this question. Is there going to be more people in Toronto tomorrow than there were today? If the answer is yes, okay, and the way that is trending, how everyone's coming back to the city now, whether that's investors or whether people can foresee, education resuming and stuff like that in the city, or whether they know they're going back to the office and they want to nab a downtown apartment.
Hope we go back to normal.
Yeah, I think we will. But that's really what it is. And if you buy, for example, a condo right now, it is the discount price. I've got a couple of happy customers this year at least, and that will grow. That will make them money. And they've begged and borrowed and steal and grinded and scrounged. They got the deposit together, and as I said, it might suck. You might not be able to buy Uber Eats 20 times a month.
Might have to cook at home.
You might have to disable that Amazon Prime account. The Netflix account.
Yeah.
And I know it sucks, and I know it's crap, but that's, if you're willing to make the sacrifice, it will pay dividends.
100%.
100%. And at the end of the day, if you compare it to stocks, just remember you can't sleep in stocks, can you, Jess?
No, that's the difference.
I like stocks; they're fun. You can, people have made money on it
for sure.
But let's do the real estate first. Let's get that down. let's get you a place so you don't have to rent, you know?
You always need shelter.
What were you saying the other day? Someone was talking about, like, you technically are paying a mortgage, you know? That rent that you pay every month.
Of course, you're paying somebody else's mortgage.
You technically are paying a mortgage. And if you wonder if you can ever own something, again, you kind of already are going through the motions of doing that. Obviously, you know, there's other fees and taxes and
there's
maintenance.
other expenses.
But it's the opportunity's there. You just got to make it work.
Better to pay somebody else your mortgage instead of paying somebody else.
Exactly.
At the end of the day. Or let somebody else pay your mortgage.
Yeah, that's it. As I said, as a person we love out there used to always say, why don't you buy something, put a renter in it, and go and rent wherever the hell you want? Yeah. Maybe where you buy is not where you want to live. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's okay. As long as you've got the bricks and mortar, wherever it is.
Yeah, it's going to make money.
And go and live wherever you want. Go live in your parents' basement. Put your ego aside. Don't worry about that. Don't worry. Just tell them, in 2 years, this is my plan. This is my savings plan. Could you please help me out as well? Maybe they can, maybe they can't. And get to the next level. Get serious about it. And don't be embarrassed about real estate.
No. And if you have questions that weren't answered, please.
There is so many questions.
Yeah. We are here to answer them, and there's no judgment. No
judgment at all. Just remember, no one really taught us this stuff. That's what our job is right now. And we realized no one knows about this stuff. Well, maybe you know a little bit here and there, but it's really just such a complex process that it takes a lot of knowledge and skill to really integrate it into your life.
Yeah, right? And until you're going through it, you may not realize the questions that you have and the parts of it that you don't understand.
Yeah.
So that's why we're here.
So reach out. We're obviously on Instagram at Hickson Real Estate. We're on Facebook. We're on the internets, the internet websites. Interwebs. That's hicksonrealestate.ca. That's fun. You can see our pretty faces, got profiles and listings and all that kind of stuff. And otherwise, if you want to just hit us up on an email, hicksonrealestateteam@gmail.com. So many ways to connect with us, Jess.
Yeah, we love to chat.
We love to chat. And guys, please, subscribe to this or whatever you have to do with a podcast. Share it out.
And just subscribe.
Yeah, that's right. You know what all the YouTubers say. Yeah, this stuff will eventually be on YouTube, hopefully. All of it will be up. Share it out. Like it. Tell your friends. Because this is really a revelation, I would say. To some people.
First of its kind.
The first of its kind. No, there's plenty of people out there educating, but we just want to drive home the points. And we want to set you up for the future as well, because you deserve it.
You do.
You young millennial, you.
Yeah. Don't let Generation Z.
And if you're not a millennial and you don't own, don't be defeated. There is always hope. There's always chance. All right, guys. Well, we will go into other podcasts about selling process. That's a whole nother podcast. Mm-hmm. But we hope we answered most of your questions today. And if we didn't, that's okay. That's okay. We have questions too. Every day we have questions, don't we, Jess? Mm-hmm. But more answers than questions. Yeah. Well, you learn something new every day. Exactly. And every sale is different, and every client is different. Every client's different. So we're here for you. Some clients care about the elevator. Yeah. If it's a quick elevator or not, when they have fear of elevators. Yeah. And this is not referring to anybody that I know. No. Nobody specific. No one's sisters, no one nothing. Okay. All right, guys. Well, thanks for hanging out with us today. Thanks for listening. And please reach out if you have any questions. See you later. Bye.